If you're listening to this right now from a warm bed, a quiet room, maybe under a soft blanket with your phone beside you or your earbuds in, pause for a second and take a breath. This world you live in, the one where you can flip on a light, heat up food in seconds, or ask a screen any question you want. This world is new, just a few seconds old in the scale of time. Before this, for thousands and thousands of years, humans lived in a completely different way. And tonight, we're going to take a walk through that world. A world so unfamiliar, so raw, so demanding, that if you were dropped into it, even just for one day, it's likely you wouldn't last 24 hours. But don't worry, this isn't meant to scare you. Because by seeing what life used to demand of us, we begin to understand just how far we've come and how much we've lost. And before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next journey. Drop a comment too. Where in the world are you listening from? And what time is it right now? Now, let's begin. Imagine this. It's dawn, and you wake up not to an alarm, not to music or light creeping through the blinds, but to cold, deep, aching cold. The kind that sinks into your joints before you've even moved. You're lying on animal hides over dirt. No mattress, no blanket. The fire went out during the night, and you're one of the unlucky few on the outer edge of the sleeping circle. Your body stiff, your breath fogging in the air. You open your eyes to dim light and the faint smell of old smoke, sweat, and earth. Already, your instincts begin to fire. Where am I? Am I safe? What's moving outside the shelter? But there's no phone to check, no time to waste. You're already behind. The group is stirring, and if you're not up soon, you'll miss the day's first movements. And in this world, missing a step can mean going hungry. Or worse, you're hungry already, but there's nothing waiting for you. No cereal, no coffee, no running water. There's no breakfast in any modern sense. If you want to eat today, you'll have to earn it. And you don't even know what's safe to pick or dig. That root nearby, it could nourish you or poison you. The berries on that bush may be edible, may be fatal. The others in your group have years of silent knowledge passed down by example, by repetition. You don't. You'd have to ask. And asking too much, showing too little use, might mark you as a burden. You have no tools, no weapons. You don't even know how to walk properly through this terrain without stepping on something sharp, twisting your ankle, or spooking the wildlife. Your shoes, if you even had time to grab them before this mental time travel, are useless here. The ground is uneven, sharp, unforgiving. Your feet start to ache almost immediately. You follow the group through the woods, trying to match their silence. But you're breathing too loud. You step on sticks. You flinch at every sudden sound. You're dressed all wrong, layers meant for air conditioning, and carpeted hallways. Not rough trails and wild plants with thorns that claw at your sleeves. Within minutes, your hands are scraped. Your knees sting from a fall. You're sweating, even though it's cold, because your body is panicking. You have no idea where you are, and no one is going to stop and comfort you. Everyone else is scanning the ground, eyes focused, hunting or tracking or gathering. They're listening for animal calls, for water, for signs of danger. You're listening for your own breath, trying not to cry, trying to look useful. And then comes the moment when someone does cry out, but not in panic, in excitement. They've spotted a rabbit, or maybe the tracks of a deer. The group stops, and just like that, your presence becomes a problem. You're loud, clumsy. You have no spear, no sense of positioning. You're not a hunter, you're an interruption. Someone gives you a look, not cruel, but calculated. They're deciding whether you're worth dragging along. Because in this world, there's no extra energy for dead weight. Everyone contributes. Even the kids know how to pull roots, carry water, prepare meat. You're not a child. You're just helpless. And that's dangerous for them. By midday, your body is already failing. You've twisted something. You haven't eaten. You're thirsty, but afraid to drink from the stream. You've sunburned your neck. Or maybe your feet are blistering. Your skin itches from insect bites. You didn't realize how sharp sunlight is when there's no shelter, no buildings, no cars to duck into. You want to rest, but there's no pause. The group is moving, always moving, looking for water, for shelter, for something to carry them into nightfall. You don't know where to go or how to help, and you're starting to realize this isn't just hard, this is impossible. You weren't built for this, not anymore. The sun is higher now, though you barely notice it. What you do notice is your breathing. It's shallow, uneven. Your body hurts in ways you've never felt before. The ache in your lower back, the burning in your calves, the pounding behind your eyes. You didn't train for this, and even if you did, it wouldn't be enough. This isn't a trail hike with hydration powder and a watch to track your pace. This is the world itself, unfiltered, uneven, and unbending. And now it's inside your body. You can feel the throb in your joints from walking over rocky terrain in shoes that weren't made for it. Or maybe you lost your shoes hours ago and you're barefoot, stumbling from root to root, rock to rock. Every step feels like a test you're failing, in slow motion. Around you, the others aren't complaining. They don't talk much at all. Their breathing is calm. Their steps are measured. They know the land. They read the terrain without effort. A broken branch tells them someone passed by. A disturbed patch of dirt tells them an animal was here just hours earlier. You missed it all. You saw trees and leaves and rocks. They saw information. Everything around them is speaking, and they understand the language. You don't. You try to catch up, to follow someone's lead, but your body keeps pulling you back. Every turn is a surprise. Every thorn is a lesson. Every noise in the forest makes you flinch, because you can't tell what's harmless and what isn't. You're not surviving, you're enduring. And then finally, a stop. Just for a moment. Someone checks a trap they laid yesterday, cleverly hidden under brush, weighted just right. It's worked. A small animal, something like a rabbit or ground bird, has been caught. It's still. You want to look away, but no one else does. They get to work immediately. Quiet, efficient. A stone blade appears. Not metal, stone. Sharpened with care. It does its job. The animal is cleaned. Nothing is wasted. Bones, fur, muscle, even the organs, everything will serve a purpose. There's no time for sentiment. And the smell is stronger than you expect. Raw, sharp, real. You feel queasy. You haven't eaten, but your stomach turns. You're not used to blood on your hands. They are. The group eats sparingly. This isn't a feast. This is fuel. Roasted over hot stones, shared in silence. When it's your turn, you hesitate. You want to ask if it's cooked enough. You want a napkin or seasoning. But none of that exists here. And you know, if you refuse this, you might not eat again for another day or two. You chew. It's tougher than you expected. There's grit in it. Your mouth is dry, but it fills your belly, and your body thanks you. The others don't watch you. They're already moving again. One or two stay behind to cover the remains, to hide scent from predators. You didn't even think of that. The idea that a smell could draw danger from miles away, that hadn't occurred to you. But it's second nature to them. Everything is. You're not thinking clearly anymore. Your thoughts are fragmented, heavy. It's hard to remember why you came this way. Even in imagination, it was supposed to be a glimpse into another life, a story, a fantasy. But now it feels like something else, like being a ghost in a place that doesn't want you. Not out of hostility, just out of indifference. This world isn't punishing you. It's simply not changing for you. The sun is still hot. The bugs still bite. The earth is still hard and dry. And your muscles are not built for this. The others glance at you occasionally, not unkindly, but cautiously. They're wondering whether they'll have to carry you, whether you're slowing them down. And deep down, you're wondering the same thing. By late afternoon, you're almost empty. You've used energy you didn't know you had. Your skin is scraped. Your lips are cracked. You have a headache that won't go away. You've said almost nothing, but your mind has been screaming all day. Screaming for comfort, for relief. for water that doesn't smell like earth, for shoes that don't fall apart, for shade, for stillness. But this world isn't designed for comfort. It's designed for resilience. And you don't have that yet. Not here. Not now. You're realizing, slowly, that the strongest people here aren't just physically tough. They're mentally prepared, adaptable, tuned to this rhythm. And you are still waiting for someone to tell you what to do next. The light begins to soften. The day is ending. For the others, that means preparation, gathering dry grass for bedding, checking the fire pit, sharpening tools for tomorrow. The motions are practiced, automatic. They're not rushing, but they're not lingering either. They know how quickly night falls when there's no electricity, no glow from screens, no artificial warmth, just the slow fade of the sky. For you, the fading light is a kind of panic. You haven't recovered from the day, and now it's about to get worse. You're still thirsty, still sore, still carrying a weight in your chest that won't let go. Your thoughts keep circling. I don't belong here. You know it's true, but it doesn't make it any easier to admit. You try to help. You copy what others do. You gather sticks, some too damp, some too brittle. You spread your hands near the fire, trying to stay useful, trying not to look scared. You want to ask questions. Where do I sleep? What if it rains? Are there animals nearby? But no one else is asking those things. They already know. Their knowledge isn't written. It lives in their hands, in their muscles, in how they move. You feel like a child again, lost in a language you can't speak. And worse, your body is betraying you. Your shoulders sag. Your feet are raw. Your lips sting when you try to eat. You keep glancing at the fire, needing it more than you should. It's the only thing here that feels like home. Someone finally gestures to you, pointing to a spot near the edge of the sleeping circle. It's not a punishment. It's just where there's space. You lay down, or try to. The earth is uneven beneath you. Your clothes are damp with sweat and dirt. There's no pillow, no blanket. Just the hide you're given and the warmth of the fire flickering against your back. It should feel like relief, but instead, it sharpens the ache inside. You've never felt this level of fatigue, not just physical, emotional, like your body is collapsing from the inside. Your stomach still twists with hunger. Your thoughts are foggy. Your fingers tremble when you curl them against your chest. You want to disappear into sleep, but it doesn't come. The group is quiet now. Someone hums a low tune. Another feeds the fire, gently, carefully. A child presses against a parent's side. You watch them and feel something deep and aching. They are part of this. They fit. You don't. You're trying to shrink into yourself, but you still feel like an exposed nerve, pulsing with need. And then the cold comes. Real cold. The kind that wraps around your ankles, presses into your spine, climbs your ribs. Your clothing isn't made for this. You curl tighter, press closer to the fire, but it doesn't help much. The others seem unaffected. Their bodies are used to this. Their skin, their blood, even their sleep cycles are shaped by this environment. Yours isn't. You start to shiver, not just lightly, but deeply. The kind of shaking that feels like it's coming from your bones. You try to be quiet, but your teeth clack together. You hope no one notices, but someone does. They toss you a hide, thicker, heavier. A gesture of kindness. You nod, barely able to say thank you. But inside, the shame burns hotter than the fire. You're not just an outsider now. You're a burden, and you know it. You wonder how long you'd really last. Another day. Maybe, but not much more. Not like this. Not without the tools, the knowledge, the instincts they've earned through a lifetime of this life. You close your eyes, but sleep won't come. Not yet. Your mind is spinning too fast. And then you realize, this was only one day. You didn't even make it to morning. You didn't hunt, or face a rival group, or survive a storm. You just tried to exist. And it nearly broke you. Not because you're weak, but because the world has changed so much. Comfort has made you soft. Technology has made you fast, but not strong. Independent, but not resilient. And now, as the stars come out, bright and unfamiliar, you feel something else, something quiet. Not shame, not pride, just respect for them, for the people who live this every day without complaint, and for the version of you that could have been if you'd been born thousands of years ago. You pull the hide tighter and wait for morning. Dawn comes without warning. No chime, no alarm, just a subtle shift in the sky. A ripple of pale blue crawling over the black. The fire is mostly out. Just the faint glow of embers beneath ash. You're not sure you ever slept. You must have dozed in waves, blinking between half-dreams and discomfort, curling tighter as the cold pressed in from every direction. Now your body is locked, stiff, sore. Your hip aches from the hard ground. Your mouth is dry again. You hear movement, soft steps, gentle clearing of throats, the rustle of hides. They're already waking, already moving, as if they weren't even tired. You don't know how to get up without groaning. Everything hurts in a quiet, mean way. You've never slept outside without a tent or sleeping bag, without walls or the low hum of electricity in the background. The silence here is too complete. It's not peaceful anymore. It's weighty. You can feel your heart thudding in your chest as you push yourself upright. You look around, disoriented. The forest looks the same in every direction. You don't know where water is. You don't know what direction is east. You don't even know where to go to relieve yourself without someone noticing. Your instincts, so useful in the modern world, feel hollow here. The others are efficient. One rekindles the fire. Another chews on something. Roots, dried meat, maybe bark. A child is already stripping bark from a branch with a sharpened stone, mimicking their parent. You try not to stare. They don't look tired. They don't look resentful. They look ready. Their body knows what this day will ask of them. Yours doesn't. You feel dread crawling into your spine. Yesterday was your introduction, your orientation. Today will be harder. There's more walking ahead, hunting, likely, or moving camp, or repairing shelters. And you're not recovered, not even close. You feel like your tank is empty before the first word is spoken. You eat whatever someone gives you. It's bitter, fibrous, but you chew and swallow. Hunger has quieted your pickiness. Still, you feel dizzy. Your body is burning more energy than it has, just trying to keep up. You start walking because everyone else does. There's no meeting, no plan laid out. They move like water, fluid, connected. They pass tools back and forth without speaking. There's no need for explanation. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone but you. You want to ask what the plan is, but the question would sound absurd. Survive. That's the plan. The same plan every day, since the beginning. As the group makes its way through the forest, you notice something new. Fear. Not just discomfort, not just pain, but actual fear. The kind that lives in your chest and doesn't let go. You can't shake the feeling that something's watching you, that something is near. Every cracked twig sounds like a predator. You keep turning, scanning the trees, the grass, the sky. But the others don't. They're alert. Yes, but not afraid. Their calm only highlights your panic. You've never been this vulnerable. No locks, no walls, no help, no phone to check for a map or an answer, or reassurance. You're alone even among others, and that's when it hits you. Not just the pain or the fear, but the difference. You came into this thinking it would be like camping, hard but manageable. But this isn't a survival challenge. It's a lifestyle. They don't push through discomfort to get back to comfort. This is the comfort. Their bodies are shaped by it. Their minds are synced to it. You are the strange one. You are the noise in the system. And it's not just that you wouldn't last 24 hours. It's that you'd never fully arrive. Not in spirit, not in body, because you're still clinging to a version of the world that doesn't exist here. And if you don't let it go, This place will wear you down until there's nothing left but your willingness to adapt or give up. You stub your toe on a stone, and for a moment, the pain blinds you. It shoots upward into your leg, sharp and hot. You limp, just slightly, hoping no one notices. But someone does. A glance from one of the older women. Not pity, not even concern. Just assessment. Pain here isn't a crisis. It's a condition. Your reaction, gritting your teeth, pausing to clutch your foot, is the anomaly. They've been scraped, stung, bruised, burned, and broken so many times that discomfort is no longer something to avoid. It's something to live with. And you realize suddenly how much of your modern life has been about avoiding pain. Ice packs, painkillers, chiropractors, ergonomic everything. Here pain doesn't go away. You do. A child nearby has a gash on his arm. Not fresh, but healing. You can see the scab, the jagged edge, where something sharp cut him days ago. He doesn't baby it. He doesn't favor the arm. It's exposed to the sun, the dirt, the grit of daily life. And somehow, it's healing. There are no bandages, no ointments, no antibiotics. And yet life continues. You start to think about all the little vulnerabilities you carry. That mild asthma you haven't thought about in years. That old knee injury that flares up when you don't stretch. The reliance on glasses, allergy meds, dietary restrictions. What happens here when you have a food sensitivity? What happens when your immune system fails you? You already know the answer. You either adapt or you're left behind. You trip again, this time harder. A sharp rock slices through your pants and cuts your knee. It's not deep, but it bleeds quickly. Your body tenses with instinct. Clean it, cover it, disinfect it. But how? There's no sink, no antiseptic wipes, no sterile gauze. Someone hands you a piece of bark, roughly torn. You stare at it, unsure. But they press it into your hand. You apply it to the wound, and it stings, either from the sap or from the dirt already on it. You don't know if this will help or make things worse. But it's all you have. The group doesn't pause for you. You are expected to keep walking. You start to panic, not loudly, but inwardly. What if it gets infected? What if you get a fever? What if the pain gets worse overnight? You think about the last time you had a cold and stayed in bed for 2 days with tea and medicine. You remember asking someone to bring you soup. You remember comfort. Here, there is none. There is only motion. And for the first time, you feel the shadow of something deeper. Not just fear, but helplessness. You've never had to rely on your own body like this. Unsupported. Every ache is a reminder of what you don't know. Every step becomes a question mark. Can you keep going? Can you make it through the night again? And what if you can't? Meanwhile, one of the elders limps constantly from an old injury. Something healed wrong years ago, but he walks without complaint. He carries firewood. He lifts hides. He eats last. You feel ashamed again. Because your pain is real, but your expectations are louder. You expected help. You expected reprieve. He expects nothing. And because of that, he is stronger. Not in muscle, but in acceptance. He has a relationship with pain. One that says, "You're not my enemy. You're just part of the deal." And that mindset, that's the difference between lasting and leaving. You wrap your knee with a strip of cloth torn from your shirt. It's not sterile. It's barely enough, but it holds. The pain pulses, but it's manageable. You walk slower now, leaning on a branch as a makeshift cane. No one offers to carry you. No one scolds you. You are simply folded into the silence, and in that silence, you begin to learn something. You are fragile, yes, but you are not useless yet. The question is no longer, can you be comfortable? The question is, can you continue? And even though everything in your body says no, your feet still move. By midday, the group stops. The air has thickened with heat, and the ground pulses with stored sun. You sit under the wide shade of a tree, panting slightly, your knees stiff beneath the cloth. It isn't infection yet, but the wound feels warm, tight. You try to hide your limp, not to impress anyone, just to avoid becoming a problem, but you already are. That knowledge settles on you like dust. In your world, you know who you are, what you're good at, what you've built. You have talents, credentials, a voice. Here, none of it matters. Your strengths don't transfer. Your skills are irrelevant. The person you thought you were has no value here, and that truth is hard to swallow. You start to realize what the others do value. Silence, observation, awareness. You see the way they pause before acting, how their eyes scan without turning their heads, how nothing is wasted, not energy, not motion, not time. And you think about how much of your life has been shaped by convenience, how little attention you've needed to pay to your surroundings. Your modern brain is powerful, yes, but it's loud. It's constantly processing options, scrolling noise, decisions that don't matter. Here, thought is slower, deeper, tuned to something else entirely. And in that stillness, you feel your thoughts begin to shift, not sharper, simpler. You chew a piece of root someone hands you. Bitter again, dry, but you don't gag this time. You feel your stomach respond, greedy and grateful. Hunger has a way of humbling you. There's no such thing as being a picky eater here. You eat what's available, or you don't eat. That's the rule. And with that bite, you begin to understand something that's been creeping at the edge of your awareness all day. It's not that you're too weak, it's that you're too used to being comfortable. Your suffering isn't about the world, it's about your resistance to it. Every instinct you've brought here says avoid discomfort, but their instincts say endure it. Someone gestures to you. A simple sign. Move. Time to go. You fall in behind the others. You're slower now, but you no longer expect pity. You just move. Your thoughts are quieter. You're not planning your escape. You're not scanning for an endpoint. You're just trying to exist, moment to moment. The sun glows through the leaves above, casting shifting patterns on the ground. The air smells like dust and green things and sweat. You hear birds, distant and constant, and for the first time all day, you don't flinch at the sounds, you just hear them, like the others do. By the time you reach the next clearing, you've stopped checking the horizon for rescue. There's no drone coming to pick you up, no time portal to take you home. And strangely, that doesn't fill you with panic. It fills you with acceptance. This is the world, harsh, demanding, but deeply real. Everything you do here has meaning. Everything you consume is earned. Every movement matters. The modern world, so filled with ease, suddenly feels distant, and even though your body is sore, scraped and hungry, your mind is still, not content, not yet, but quieter than it's been in a long time. And in that stillness, you realize something. You couldn't survive 24 hours as you are, but you're already changing. Pain has softened your pride. Exhaustion has sharpened your awareness. Discomfort has taught you to stop resisting. And maybe, just maybe, the part of you that's still ancient, the part in your bones, in your blood, has started to wake up, not to conquer this world, just to belong to it, even if only for a little while. You haven't spoken in hours, not because your mouth can't form words, but because there's no one here who speaks your language. Not really. The people around you communicate, but it's not like home. There are words, yes, but simple, direct, few. Most of what they say is done with gesture, with expression, with movement. And because you don't know how to read it, you begin to feel a pressure in your chest, like you're on the outside of a world that doesn't even know you're trying to come in. It's a loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being unseen. And in that silence, your thoughts become loud again, unruly, craving connection, craving familiarity. At home, you were used to noise. The background hum of the city, the scroll of a screen, the voice of a friend or partner checking in, texts, notifications. Some part of your brain was always connected to someone. But now, you could scream and no one would know what you were saying. You start to feel smaller with each hour. Not just because you're out of place, but because you've stopped being a person in the way you're used to. There's no reflection of yourself in anyone else's eyes. No one asking how you're feeling. No one validating your effort. Just this group quietly surviving. Not cruel, not kind, just focused. And you're not part of it. You catch someone watching you, not judging, just observing. You wonder what they see. Not your job title, not your favorite songs or shows or the jokes you tell with your friends. Just your body, your movement, your hesitation. They assess you by usefulness. Can you keep pace? Can you carry something? Are you quiet when you need to be? You feel exposed in a new way. Not for what you show, but for what you lack. There's a brutal honesty to it. In this world, identity isn't what you say about yourself. It's what you do when the fire dies, when the rain comes, when the group moves and you have to choose whether to follow or fall behind. It's humbling, and it hurts. But it also scrapes away something: ego. The idea that your worth is wrapped in your preferences, your hobbies, your opinions. None of that travels here. What does? Your ability to endure. Your willingness to contribute. Your quiet observation. These are the currencies of survival. And in that realization, there's something oddly comforting. You don't have to be clever here. You just have to be present. No one expects you to be brilliant or charismatic. They just expect you to listen, to try. And slowly you begin to do exactly that. You mimic the way they move. Low steps, quiet placement of the feet, fingers curled in a way that balances weight when crouching. You notice how they breathe through their noses to avoid making sound. You copy it, not perfectly, but earnestly. And someone nods at you, not with a smile, not with applause, just a small nod, as if to say, you're not invisible anymore. That nod means more than 100 messages from home. It's the first thread of belonging, thin, fragile, but real. And for the first time, you start to think, maybe the goal isn't to go back. Maybe the goal is to become part of something here. But that thought fades quickly, because the next challenge is already coming. Clouds are building. A storm is near. You see the way people look to the sky, adjust their pace, shift their packs. You don't know what to expect, how hard it will hit, how long it will last, but you can already feel the group tightening. They're preparing, and so are you, now at least in your own quiet way. You still wouldn't last 24 hours here, but you've lasted this long. And that means something. Not much yet, but something. The first drop lands without warning, cold, sharp, and heavy. It hits your neck and slides down your spine. A sudden jolt that pulls you out of your thoughts. Then another, and another. You look up, but the canopy above is too dense to see much sky. Only flashes of light shimmer through the leaves. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls. Not like the soft rumble you hear from behind windows, but deep, body-shaking thunder that moves through your ribs like a drumbeat. Everyone around you moves faster now, their steps urgent but measured. They don't panic, they've done this before. But you, your breath tightens. You remember how storms used to be exciting, safe, cozy. This isn't that kind of storm. You try to keep up. You're soaked within minutes. The material of your clothes is wrong. Cotton, maybe, or synthetic blends that trap the water and press it against your skin. The fabric clings, cold and heavy. Your shoes, if you're even still wearing them, squish with every step. The mud grips your feet like it wants to keep you. You stumble once, then again, and no one helps you up. Not because they don't care, but because there's no time. You are expected to rise on your own. If you fall too far behind, you'll lose sight of them in the downpour. And if that happens, you don't even want to imagine it. The group veers toward a rock face, scanning for overhangs, anything to break the wind. You follow, shivering hard now, your body fighting to keep its core warm. Lightning flashes through the canopy, followed by a crack of thunder so loud your teeth clench. You crouch with the others, under a low ledge, barely wide enough for everyone. Rain pelts the stone in front of you. The sound is deafening. You curl in on yourself, trying to conserve heat. The cold creeps into your fingers, your toes, the back of your neck. No one speaks. There's no need. They wait, silent, patient. You can't help but tremble, not just from cold, but from the realization that this could last for hours. You think about home, how you used to complain about weather. Rain on your day off, wind that messed up your hair. Now, you'd give anything for a coat, a fire, a dry pair of socks. But there is no relief here, only endurance. One of the women beside you squeezes water from her hair and wraps her arms around a child, shielding them with her body. You have nothing to offer anyone. No dry cloth, no fire-starting skill, not even the calm needed to steady someone else. And that hurts more than the rain, that uselessness. You've never felt it like this. The storm doesn't let up. You sit there for what feels like forever, soaked and shaking, the cold making you sluggish. It's not just discomfort anymore, it's danger. Your fingers are numb. You stop noticing how wet you are. That's when it gets scary. You remember stories about hypothermia and realize that's what this is. Not the cartoon version, the real one. Your body shutting down slowly and no hospital anywhere near. But the people around you, they are alert, managing, preserving warmth. They've layered hides or bark. They know how to lean close without wasting heat. You wonder how many storms they've endured like this. Hundreds, maybe, thousands. And you, this is your first. Eventually, the worst passes, the rain softens to a mist, and the thunder fades behind the hills. The group emerges from the shelter and begins to walk again, calm, deliberate. They leave no trace. You follow, heavy and raw, your limbs stiff, your teeth still chattering. You don't know where they're going. You don't care. You just know that sitting still would have meant the end of something. And walking, moving forward, however weakly, is the only option. You still wouldn't last here, but you're still moving. And maybe in this world, that's the only thing that matters. The storm is behind you now, but the wet stays. It clings to your clothes, seeps into your skin, lives in the fabric of your thoughts. Still, the group moves forward, unbothered. They've started speaking more again. Short words, murmurs, hand signals. You can't decipher most of it. There's no translator, no captions, no way to catch up. You're still on the outside of the conversation, just close enough to hear it, but never part of it. And it wears on you, not because you want attention, but because you want connection. Real connection, a glance that means something, a hand on the shoulder, a shared joke. You would trade anything for that now. But in this world, privacy doesn't exist. There are no doors, no headphones, no moments to check out. You're always with the group, eating, sleeping, moving, resting. Your body is always visible. Your noise is always shared. You can't cry without someone hearing. You can't change clothes without someone seeing. At first, that made you uncomfortable. Then it made you exhausted. Now it just makes you numb. The constant presence of others is like a pressure around your thoughts. There's no room for introspection, no place to fall apart. Even in silence, you're being watched, not cruelly, just inevitably. The others are used to this. Their lives are braided into one another. Tasks, routines, relationships, all woven together without separation. They don't ask for space. They don't need alone time. When something is hard, they don't retreat into a bedroom or go for a solo walk. They bear it out loud, in front of each other. You realize how much of your own emotional survival has depended on solitude. How often you've turned inward when things were hard. Here, that isn't an option. There's nowhere to run. No digital escape hatch. No screen to scroll while your emotions cool down. You either process things in real time or you don't process them at all. And so your thoughts back up. Frustration, fear, guilt, resentment. They swirl in your chest, unspoken, growing heavier. You want to talk to someone, to anyone, but the language barrier is real. And even if it weren't, what would you say? That you miss your bed? That you're tired of being wet? that you don't know who you are anymore. Those aren't problems here. They don't register. You're not sick. You're not starving. You're just unraveling in a way this world has no word for, and that makes it worse. Because pain with no name can't be shared. It just sits inside you, growing roots. Even the kids here seem stronger than you. One of them runs ahead, barefoot, mud streaked up his calves, laughing about something you don't understand. You're jealous of that laugh, not because you want to feel joy, but because you want to feel normal. You want your body to be light. You want to belong here without effort. But you don't, not yet, maybe not ever. You keep walking, still slightly behind the others. Your breath slower now, but your shoulders heavy. There is no room for you to rest alone. No place to lie down and close your eyes and feel safe. That is a luxury you didn't even realize you had. And then it hits you. You're not failing because of the pain, or the hunger, or even the cold. You're failing because your sense of self is crumbling. All the things that made you you, your habits, your routines, your voice, your space, they don't exist here. You are nothing but your body, your presence, your ability to walk, to carry, to endure. That's what you're becoming now. Just a body in the group. And while that sounds dehumanizing, it's not. It's the opposite. It's ancient. This is what humans were before we wrapped ourselves in titles and brands and digital personalities. It's not a loss. It's a return. But it hurts all the same. The trail winds along a ridge now, high above a rocky plain, the wind cutting sharp across your face. The ground is uneven, slick with wet clay from the earlier storm. You're exhausted, cold and mentally hollow. But then, ahead, something changes. The group slows. There's a stillness, not fear, but something heavier. A body lies at the edge of the ridge. You don't recognize him right away, but it's one of the older men, the one who walked slower than the rest. Always slightly behind. His chest doesn't rise. His mouth is slack. His fingers are curled into the dirt. There's no cry, no scream, no frantic call for help, just a pause. They gather around him. You hang back, unsure, waiting for someone to explain. But no one does. He's not moved. There's no pulse checking, no desperate CPR, no shouting for medicine or help. Because there is no help. There's no rescue coming, no emergency service on the way. Whatever took him, injury, exposure, heart failure, or simply time, has already won. The others don't fight it. They accept it. You feel something unravel in your chest. Not just sorrow, but disbelief. At home, death is sanitized, delayed, hidden behind sterile walls. Here, it walks with you, sleeps beside you. And when it arrives, it's not treated as a failure, just a fact. A woman kneels beside him, closes his eyes with 2 fingers. Someone murmurs something low. The child nearby doesn't cry. They've seen this before. Maybe not often, but enough to know what it means. There's no ritual, no burial yet. That will come later, or maybe not at all, if the ground is too hard, or if movement is required. You feel frozen, not just by the wind, but by the intimacy of it all. Death, raw and untheatrical. No last words, no dramatic goodbye, just this body, now empty, and the quiet knowledge that this could be anyone, tomorrow, tonight, even you. And for the first time, you're not afraid of dying. You're afraid of how it would happen here, quietly, without someone holding your hand, without music playing, without anyone calling your name, just fading, slowly or quickly, into the dirt like everyone else. There would be no digital memorial, no photos shared, no echo of your voice saved in voicemail boxes. You would vanish completely, like smoke from the fire, and the world would keep moving, because it has to. Not out of cruelty, just out of need. Survival doesn't wait for grief, but then you see something else. One of the women gives the dead man's knife to a boy, not as inheritance, but as practicality. A tool should not be wasted. A strong body can't be brought back, but the things it leaves behind can still serve. There's a quiet dignity to it, a recognition that life is shared, even in death. That survival is communal, passed from one hand to the next. And you realize something. Maybe death here isn't feared because it's ever present. Maybe it's not so terrifying because it's understood, not solved, not avoided, but woven into the rhythm of life. You walk on in silence, heart heavy, mind spinning. Your culture taught you to fear death, to push it back, to sanitize it, schedule it, explain it. But here, there are no explanations, only moments. Bodies wear out, accidents happen, nature doesn't flinch, and neither do these people, not because they don't feel it, but because they've learned how to carry it. You wonder if you could ever be that still, that calm, that accepting. Probably not, not yet. You're still holding on to something that doesn't exist here, the illusion of control. But step by step, even that illusion begins to fade. You've stopped trying to predict what will happen next. That's gone now, that illusion of planning. You walk, you observe, and you try not to fall. The group moves through a valley now, flanked by tall grass and distant trees. They're scanning everything. The sky, the trails, the smells in the air. They don't speak. They just know. One man squats near a patch of earth and points to a spot you never would have noticed. There's nothing there, just soil, a few crushed leaves. But to him, it's a message. Something passed through here. Deer, maybe, or something else. He gestures with his fingers. Direction, size, time, all without a word. It dawns on you, slowly, that this isn't random. They're not guessing, they're reading. Reading the land, the trees, the movement of the birds. You've spent your life reading screens, menus, emails, texts. But these people read the real world, and they do it fluently. You feel like a toddler trying to sound out a new alphabet. You can't hear what they hear, see what they see, smell what they smell. A scent on the breeze tells them rain is coming. A broken stem tells them what animal passed through. A pattern of moss tells them which direction is north. It's not magic, it's memory, passed down in skin and bone. You remember a time when you prided yourself on being smart. You had answers. You were quick with words, good with data. But here, that means nothing. Your brain so sharp in your world is dull here, too slow, asking the wrong questions. You're trying to solve an equation while everyone else is already 5 steps into the solution. The man who can't read a map in your world knows how to navigate by the stars here. The woman who's never seen a phone can dress a wound, trap an animal, and keep a child alive through winter. And you're just trying not to lose your footing on wet stones. They spot things you didn't even know existed. Bird calls you've never heard before. Roots that taste like garlic. A change in animal droppings that means predators are near. It overwhelms you, not because they're smarter, but because their intelligence is embodied. It's in their walk, their gestures, their quiet decisions. You've always thought of intelligence as something spoken, something proven. But here, no one explains themselves. They don't need to. The proof is survival. The reward is life. And failure means death. No grading curve. No second try. It's the purest test you've ever witnessed, and you know you'd fail. But there's a strange comfort in it too. A simplicity beneath the fear. Because here, everything matters. Every choice has weight. There's no mental clutter. No existential spiral about meaning or success or purpose. You find food. You share it. You protect your people. You move forward. There's no branding. No self-promotion. No one is trying to go viral or become an expert in things they've never done. They know what they know because they live it. And for all its difficulty, this world feels more real than anything you've ever known. Because here, knowledge isn't something you hold. It's something you are. And you realize now, even if you could survive the cold, the hunger, the walking, you'd still fail without this. Without the eyes to see what they see. the ears to hear the language of birds, the patience to understand the whisper of wind through the trees. You're not just physically weak, you're informationally starved. Your senses are soft. And the scariest part? You didn't even know what you were missing until you saw someone live without needing to explain a thing. Time stops meaning what it used to. You don't know if it's afternoon or early evening. The sun is hidden behind a pale wash of clouds, and no one is checking a watch. The group has paused again, not because of some dramatic moment, just because they can. There's no destination today, no schedule, just the rhythm of energy spent and energy conserved. They sit in a circle, quietly. Some work on small things, tools, fibers, scraping bark. Others simply sit, blinking slowly, conserving breath. You sit too. You try not to fidget. You try to copy their stillness. But it's hard. It's so hard to do nothing when your mind is used to everything. There's no distraction. No podcast in your ear. No buzzing in your pocket. No ambient hum of the fridge, or traffic, or music in the next room. Just silence and your thoughts. At first, you try to think of something productive. You replay memories. You mentally scroll. You imagine what your friends are doing. But slowly all of that stops helping. You've run out of inner noise, and now the silence starts to press against your skin. It's not peaceful yet. It's suffocating. Your brain, trained to chase novelty, is gasping for something to chew on. But there's nothing here, just the wind, and your breathing, and the people beside you who seem completely unbothered. This is what you didn't expect. Not the hunger or the pain, but the emptiness. The hours where nothing happens. No danger, no drama. Just sitting, waiting. Letting the body rest while the world turns slowly overhead. The others don't see it as boring. They see it as normal. Because it is. Most of prehistoric life wasn't running from predators or fighting rival clans. It was this, long, slow stretches of patience, quiet, crafting, watching, thinking. Not in the anxious modern way, but in the deeply present way. You realize your version of rest has always been noisy, distracted, filled. But here, rest is real. It's just deeply unfamiliar. One of the older men is shaping a rock. He's done it for hours now. Tapping, chipping, testing. His hands are methodical. The repetition would drive you insane. You can't understand how he isn't bored. But then you realize he's not bored because his hands know what they're doing. He doesn't need entertainment. The rhythm is the entertainment. The quiet mastery of the task is the meaning. You watch him work and feel something stir, jealousy maybe, or longing. To be that absorbed, to be that still. You remember how often you've said you were too busy to slow down? How many times you've reached for your phone out of nothing but habit? And now here you are, forced into slowness, stripped of stimulation, and utterly unable to cope. The problem isn't that there's nothing to do. It's that you've forgotten how to be without doing. And that realization cuts deeper than any injury, because it's not just a survival issue, it's an identity crisis. You don't know how to exist without being plugged into something else. The others begin to stir again, slowly, like birds adjusting on a branch. They rise in no rush, gather their things, and begin moving. You follow, again, still tired, still sore, but quieter inside now. Not peaceful, but perhaps surrendering. Not to the group, not to the hardship, but to the moment, to the silence. You didn't last 24 hours in the way you thought you would, but you are still here, even if you're not doing anything. And maybe in this world, that's one of the hardest things to learn, when the group finally stops moving again. It's not because they've reached a destination. It's just because this is where they've decided to stop. There's no map, no marked site. Just a clearing with a few dry spots and some flat stones that might serve as seats. You're tired, still hungry, despite eating roots and dried meat earlier. Your stomach twists at irregular intervals, unsure whether it wants more or less. You miss hot food, warm food, predictable food. But no one here talks about what they're craving. They talk with their hands, and right now they're preparing something from their day's catch. A small animal, barely enough for a feast, just enough to stay alive. You watch closely. There's no fire yet. That takes effort, friction, patience, kindling. One of the older children takes charge, a teenager really, but their hands are more capable than yours. They work the fire methodically. No lighter, no fluid, no panic, just understanding. You feel useless again, but it doesn't sting like it used to. It's more like an ache now, like watching a world that knows how to feed itself while you wait to be told where to stand. Eventually the fire catches, and the air fills with smoke and wood crackle. The scent is sharp, earthy, immediate. You don't talk during any of it, neither does anyone else. There's a rhythm to how food is distributed. Not equal, not generous, but balanced. The strongest don't always get the most. The loudest don't get any extra. There is memory in how portions are handed out. An older woman is given more than a child. A man who's been limping gets a good cut. A woman who carried tools all day eats first. And you're given a piece, not large, not prime, but yours. It is not earned through conversation. It is offered through presence that feels like a kind of grace. You say nothing, just nod. That's enough here. The taste is unfamiliar. Smoky, sinewy, wild. There's no seasoning, no side dishes, no drink to wash it down. But somehow, you chew with more gratitude than you've ever felt in a kitchen. This food was hunted, cleaned, cooked, and shared. Not bought, not picked up in a hurry, not swiped into a delivery app. You feel for a moment like you understand need, not desire, not preference, but need. And it humbles you. You look around the circle and realize something else. No one hoards here. No one asks if there's more. They take what they're given. They chew in silence, and they move on. There's something sacred in it. This act of feeding each other without ceremony, without words. A kind of unspoken pact. We keep each other alive, not because of love necessarily, not because of affection, but because that's what humans are for, to share, to protect, to continue. In the modern world, food is often fuel or pleasure. Here, it's something heavier, a moment of survival made visible. And when it's over, you wipe your fingers on the grass and feel a strange sense of inclusion. You were part of that. You ate, and no one took issue with your presence. Later, as the fire dims, you sit with your back to a tree, watching the embers pulse like stars. You're not full, but you're not empty. And that, in this world, is enough. You begin to understand why prehistoric people didn't eat alone, why they didn't hoard, why food wasn't just about the body, but about trust. You still wouldn't last 24 hours on your own. But here, with them quiet, watching, chewing slowly, you begin to learn the oldest rule in human history. We survive together, or not at all. The fire is lower now, just a warm cradle of coals. No one speaks. They've laid down in a loose circle, their bodies arranged by instinct, by habit. Some curl against hides. Others lie flat. You copy them, still feeling like an outsider, but less so than yesterday. Your body aches, but in a dull, familiar way now. Not screaming, just humming. The ground beneath you feels like it did the night before, but your relationship with it has changed. You don't expect comfort anymore. You expect the earth. Cold, firm, unmoving. It doesn't hate you. It just doesn't care. The night sky is clearer this time. You can actually see stars. They're brighter than you remembered. Maybe because there's no pollution here. No streetlights, no glow. Maybe because you're finally looking. You track their patterns, knowing they once guided entire migrations, seasons, decisions. You wonder if anyone here still uses them that way, or if that knowledge has shifted to other signs. The wind, the trees, the animals. You stare longer than usual because it's all you can do. There is no scrolling, no dim screen to hold above your face, just the sky. Infinite, cold, quiet. and then your thoughts creep back in. All the noise you kept away during the day with walking, hunger, discomfort. Now it returns. What are you doing here? Who are you without your apartment, your messages, your playlists and podcasts and friends who text you when something funny happens? You start to feel like a ghost. You haven't said more than a few words all day. No one's asked you a question. No one's touched your arm and said your name. Your identity is dissolving. You are becoming something quieter, smaller, maybe even more honest. It's not just loneliness. It's a kind of ego death. Your opinions, your sense of humor, your social skills, none of them translate here. You're not interesting. You're not clever. You're just here. Your worth is measured in silence, in resilience, in whether you stand up when others stand, whether you carry what's needed, whether you slow the group down. And that terrifies you more than any predator, because you're not used to being evaluated in this way. You're used to performance, not presence. But this world only rewards presence. Everything else is noise. Someone shifts beside you. You feel the warmth of a body near your legs. It's not intimacy, it's practicality. Heat is precious. The group shares it without asking. You've noticed this, how casual the closeness is. Touch isn't awkward here. It's functional. It's communal. It's not sexualized or dramatized. Just survival. You feel strange, letting someone's body rest against yours without speaking. But you don't move. It's the first time all day you felt part of something without trying, without apologizing for it. Your eyes close, not out of comfort, but surrender. You're still cold, still sore, still unsure. But your body has stopped fighting the experience. That resistance, the one that screamed, "This isn't who I am," has faded. You don't know what's next. You don't know if you'll wake up stronger or just more tired. But for now, in this patch of forest, under this blanket of stars, beside people who do not know your name but let you stay anyway, you're still here. And in this world, that is the closest thing to peace you've felt in a long, long time. You wake up before anyone moves. The forest is gray, half dreaming, soaked in mist. The fire is nothing but a dark dent in the earth now. No warmth left, but somehow you aren't shivering. You're cold, but your body has stopped protesting. It's as if it has made peace with the terms. No one promised comfort. No one promised ease. You sit up slowly, careful not to wake the person whose shoulder rests near yours. There's no way to tell what time it is, not by the numbers you used to live by, just the way the air smells, the way the birds sound, faint and curious, as if they too are stretching awake. You look around at the others, still asleep or barely stirring. Their faces are soft in the early light, expressionless, wrapped in whatever dreams they're allowed. You realize then, none of them look comfortable either. No one here is luxuriating. They're enduring, just more gracefully. Their bodies have adapted over years, maybe generations, to sleep with one ear open, to rise with a sore back and keep moving anyway. There's no morning routine, no coffee ritual, no time to ease into the day. The world doesn't wait. It never has. Your stomach rumbles faintly. Hunger is constant now, a low pulse in the background. You reach for a bit of dried root left from yesterday and chew without thinking. You don't grimace this time. You don't long for flavor. You're not thinking of breakfast menus or favorite snacks. You're just feeding your body. That's what food is here. A transaction, not a comfort. And somehow, that's okay. You understand now why they don't talk much while eating. It's not an event. It's a necessity. The real energy is saved for harder things: hunting, moving, carrying. Talking takes more than people think. When the group finally stirs, there's a calm efficiency to it. They pack lightly. They speak only when needed. One person examines the sky. Another sniffs the air. You don't ask where you're going. You stop needing to know. You just fall into step, adjusting your weight, testing your knee with every stride. It's not healed, but it holds. You notice you're watching your feet more now, avoiding loose rocks, adjusting to the slope without falling behind. Your hands don't fumble as much. You're learning, not in theory, but in motion. Slowly, your body is teaching your mind what it forgot long ago. A boy passes you a small bundle of bark. You unwrap it carefully. Inside, there's a crushed paste of green and brown, a mix of chewed leaves and ash, pressed together. He gestures to your leg. You understand. This is for the wound. You smear it on gently. It stings, but not in a dangerous way. More like it's working. You nod in thanks. He doesn't smile. He just walks on. And that, strangely, feels better than words. Because here, kindness doesn't come dressed in emotion. It comes dressed in function. And that kind of care, it's deeper than performance. The sun climbs higher. The trees thin. A new landscape opens ahead. Rocky, sunlit, unfamiliar. You take a deep breath. You still wouldn't last a week out here. Maybe not even 3 full days. But you've made it through the hours you didn't think you could. Not because you became strong, but because you stopped trying to be comfortable. And when that expectation fell away, something else took its place. Presence. You are, for the first time, really here. Hungry, sore, uncertain, but here. And for now, that's enough. It happens during a water stop. The group kneels near a shallow stream, cupping their hands, filling gourds, washing dirt from their arms and faces. It's quiet, routine. Then, a low sound, half word, half growl, from one of the older men. You don't understand it, but it's sharp. It carries weight. Another man responds, his tone clipped and tense. The others stiffen. Eyes move, but no one interrupts. Something is wrong. Not dramatically, just beneath the surface. A disagreement. Over direction, over food, over something said earlier. You don't know, and you won't be told. This isn't your world, and their conflicts aren't your business. What strikes you isn't the presence of tension. It's how contained it is. There's no shouting match, no explosion. Just these two men locked in a moment of friction that could shift the entire day. And then one walks away. Not sulking, not storming, just walking. The other returns to the stream, drinking with one hand, eyes lowered. You expect someone to say something, to smooth it over, but no one does. Because here, feelings aren't center stage. There is no time for dramatic resolution, no long talks around the fire about hurt and healing. People feel, people deal, and then they move. It rattles you more than it should. You're used to spaces where emotion is shared, labeled, explained, where tension is processed out loud. But this is survival culture. There's no room for theatrics. If something needs to be said, it's said. If it doesn't help the group survive, it's dropped. You realize how much energy you've spent in your life, managing moods, smoothing over conflict, decoding tone. Here, none of that exists. If someone is angry, they might show it, but they won't perform it, and they won't dwell on it, because resentment doesn't feed the children or find dry wood. That simplicity is jarring. It makes you feel emotionally loud, even when you're silent. You think about the grudges you've held, the petty complaints you've voiced in your own world, how easily you've let small things steal your peace. And you realize none of that would last here. It would be burned away by hunger, cold, and the sheer need to function. Ego is a luxury, and in this world, no one can afford it. Disagreement is permitted, but only within the limits of utility. When it threatens the group's cohesion, it's absorbed and moved past. Not because they're better people, but because they have to be. Later that day, you see the two men side by side again, lifting a log together without words. No apology, no awkwardness, just function, just movement. You stare, wondering how they're not still holding on to it. But maybe that's the secret. They are holding it, but with an open hand, letting it pass through, not bury in. Their sense of self isn't so fragile that a moment of anger fractures it. They don't need resolution. They need rhythm. And if the rhythm is steady again, that's enough. You envy that, even as it unsettles you. And you begin to wonder how much of your modern emotional life is about protecting things that don't actually matter. Preferences, status, being right, being seen. Here, what matters is movement, direction, contribution, trust. You can be upset. You can disagree. But if it stops the group from surviving, it has to end. That's the cost of belonging. Not silence, but humility. And for the first time, you feel what that costs, and why most of us wouldn't make it past the first argument, let alone the first 24 hours. The sun hangs low now, bleeding orange through the trees. The group moves slower. They've covered ground today, maybe 10 miles, maybe more. You don't know anymore. Time doesn't click forward in hours now. It expands and contracts, depending on pain, hunger, and light. You're walking behind a woman you hadn't noticed before. She's older. You hadn't realized how old until now. Her hair is gray at the temples, her shoulders slightly rounded, but she moves with precision, calculated, efficient. Every step chosen, every breath measured. And then, halfway up a slope, she pauses. Just long enough that others begin to notice. No one panics. No one rushes to her side. But something shifts. Quietly. One of the younger men slows his pace, moves beside her, doesn't speak, doesn't offer help, just matches her stride. Later, when the group stops to rest, he offers her water first, not with ceremony, just as if it were obvious. You realize this isn't a culture that worships youth, nor one that discards the old. It's something in between. A culture of function. If you can contribute, you're included. If you slow down, you're supported, as long as you're still trying. There's no romanticism to it, just mutual recognition. The old carry memory. The young carry weight. Everyone carries something. You think about the world you came from. How aging is treated like a decline. How the elderly are isolated, gently ignored, sidelined with comforts and distance. But here, age isn't shameful. It's simply a state of being. Old doesn't mean useless. It just means experienced. You can't imagine this woman in a retirement home. She's walked farther today than you ever have. She knows which plants soothe burns, which insects signal bad weather. She knows when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. Her presence isn't tolerated, it's needed. Later, you see her wrapping a child's foot in bark, murmuring something low and melodic. It's not just healing, it's teaching. She does it slowly, letting the child watch, letting them learn. And you understand then, this is how knowledge survives without books, without writing. It passes through hands, through wounds, through repeated motion. Everything you learned growing up came through screens, schedules, filtered information. But here, it comes through attention. You feel ashamed at how little you know about the basics of existence, about the body, the ground, the plants you walk past daily. You begin to notice more. A man with an injured wrist being silently handed a lighter task. A child being passed from one set of arms to another without comment. A woman chewing bark and gently placing the pulp on someone's inflamed knee. These aren't acts of charity, they're acts of continuity. Care here is not extra, it's expected, because without it the group fails, and you realize something you didn't expect. Prehistoric life wasn't cold, it wasn't cruel, it was communal, not soft, but deeply human, in a way that modern life has tried to simulate with systems and services. And suddenly, you understand. You wouldn't last 24 hours here, not because of danger, or cold, or hunger, but because you've unlearned what it means to belong. Not perform, not earn, just contribute and receive, in silence, without praise, without transaction. That's not weakness, that's the root of civilization. And somewhere under the fatigue and the soreness, you feel that old part of yourself stir again. The part that just wants to carry something for someone else, without needing to be thanked. It begins with stillness, a kind of unnatural hush that spreads across the group as they walk. One person stops, holds up a hand. The others freeze, not slowly, but like muscle memory. No one speaks. No one asks questions. You mimic their tension without understanding. Your heartbeat slows, then speeds up. Eyes scan the trees. You hear birds. Then you don't. That's the first sign, the absence of bird song. You've read that before. How animals know before you do. But reading it is not the same as feeling it in your teeth. Something is wrong. Then a sound. Fast, soft. Not an animal, not the wind. A figure appears at the edge of the woods, crouched low, holding something long in one hand. Not from your group, not friendly. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. The stance says everything. He's testing, measuring, reading your numbers. Then another figure. Then a third. It isn't an ambush, it's a warning, or a threat. And suddenly you understand why everyone in your group moves like they do. Silent, alert, low to the ground. This is the reason for every lesson you haven't yet learned. No weapons are drawn yet, but tension tightens like a wire through the chest of every person present. You feel your body go cold, not from fear of death exactly, but fear of not knowing what to do. You don't know the signs. You don't know who decides what happens next. You don't even know where to stand. Your presence is a liability, a hole in the formation, and everyone knows it. One of the men gently pushes you backward toward a cluster of trees. Not as punishment, as protection. You are dead weight in this situation, and they don't blame you. They just can't afford to explain. The standoff doesn't last long. The outsiders move back. One of your group watches them go with narrowed eyes. Not angry, aware. No chase follows, no posturing. Just long minutes of stillness before the group begins walking again, faster now with purpose. They don't talk about what just happened. They don't debate. They move. And you, breath still shallow, follow with legs that no longer feel like your own. You thought danger here meant animals or terrain. You forgot that the most dangerous creature on earth has always been other people. You ask yourself, later, why it rattled you so deeply. Nothing happened. No fight, no blood, no violence. But you know why. Because now you understand that it could have, quickly, efficiently. And that in this world, there's no room for hesitation. You don't get to philosophize about the ethics of self-defense. You either survive or you don't. And what protects the group is not mercy, it's readiness, discipline, the willingness to act if needed. There is no one else to call, no one else to blame. And that self-reliance, while admirable, is terrifying to carry. You still wouldn't last 24 hours here, because deep down you still expect protection from someone. From something. A parent, a government, a neighbor, a phone call. But here, the only thing standing between you and death is the person beside you, the one who didn't flinch, the one who noticed the silence, the one who stepped forward while you were still frozen. And that realization, more than anything else, stays with you, long after the danger passes, long after the birds return, long after your legs remember how to walk again. The group walks until the light starts to slip again, and only then begins the slow process of settling. There is no camp as you once imagined, no assigned tasks, no roll call, just instinct, motion honed by repetition. The older woman gathers kindling. The teen checks for dry wood. Two of the men quietly disappear into the trees to look for food. No one tells them to. They just do it. Everyone else starts clearing the ground. You mimic as best you can. Your fingers are cracked now. Your muscles ache in dull waves. But you don't complain. You haven't complained in a while. Not because the pain is gone, but because everyone already knows. You can't hide here. That's what's finally sinking in. There are no private moments, no long showers, no late night scrolling. If you cry, they see. If you sulk, they wait for you to stop. If you get overwhelmed, the group doesn't offer space. There is no space. You eat together, move together, sleep together. And your moods, those things you once thought were yours alone, are shared, whether you like it or not. You begin to understand that your modern emotional independence is a luxury. Here, emotions are either regulated or they threaten the rhythm of survival. There's no time for drama, no tolerance for self-pity, and yet no one is cold. They're just honest. If someone is weak, they're helped. If someone is slow, they're pulled along. But only if they're trying. If you give up, really give up, the group keeps moving. They don't hate you. They just have to survive. That's the rule, and that rule is not negotiable. You've seen it already. A sickly member left behind hours earlier, not cruelly, not abandoned, just accepted. They couldn't keep up. They didn't ask for help. And that was that. It burns in your memory like a brand. This world is not heartless, but it is clear-eyed. At home, you were used to hiding your worst days. You had doors, you had screens. You could perform when needed, then fall apart in private. Here, you fall apart in front of everyone, and no one stops you. They just watch. Not unkindly, but without the language of comfort you're used to. No one says you've got this. No one reassures you that it's going to be okay. They don't pretend things are better than they are. They see you, and they keep doing what must be done. And in a strange, painful way, that might be more comforting than any words. You realize now why the group bonds so deeply. Not in loud declarations or emotional check-ins, but in sheer coexistence. You've been shoulder to shoulder with these people for what feels like weeks, though it's barely a day. You've eaten beside them, stumbled beside them, slept beside them. There are no secrets here, no facades. They know what you look like when you're hungry, scared, in pain, and still they let you walk with them. That's the only kind of acceptance that matters in this world. Not one you earn, one you hold on to. And now, as the fire crackles back to life, and the group eats in silence again, you realize just how loud your own mind used to be, how full of fear and pride and need, and how little of it mattered. You still wouldn't last here, not really. But for the first time, you're not trying to change this world to suit you. You're changing, just slightly, to fit into it. And that shift, tiny, invisible, private, is maybe the beginning of something ancient awakening in you. Not survival, but belonging. The cave was deeper than you expected. They led you there quietly, the group moving with a reverence you hadn't seen before. No words, just torches and breath, and the crunch of bone-dry earth beneath your feet. You weren't sure what you were walking into. Not danger, exactly, but something weightier. When you reached the chamber, it was cooler. Still, the flickering light crawled across the stone walls. And then you saw it. Not tools, not bones, not a place to sleep, but art, lines, shapes, hands, creatures painted in ochre and ash. And you froze. You stare at the wall. Not because it's beautiful, though it is, but because it shouldn't be here. Your mind, shaped by assumptions, still pictures these people as beasts of survival, as brutes, and yet here is proof that they dreamed. They imagined. They saw more in the world than what their stomach demanded. The painting isn't random. It has rhythm, movement, a kind of narrative. You run your hand near, not touching, and your throat tightens. These hands, this color, this composition. It wasn't accidental. Someone made this, and someone else stood here beside it, just like you are now, trying to understand it. One of the elders lights a second torch and gestures to a handprint on the wall. It's small, a child's. You realize how many hands are here, layers of generations, preserved in clay and soot. You wonder what it meant to them. A mark of presence, of identity, a sign to spirits. You'll never know. But the question isn't what it means to you. It's what it meant to them. And that's the shift. You stop looking at this world through your lens and start trying to see it through theirs. Not what makes sense to you, but what helped them survive. Not just with food, but with meaning. Because that's what this is. Meaning. When the hunt fails, when the fire dies, when someone is buried and the next day doesn't stop for grief. This is how they remembered, how they made sense of their world. These marks on stone weren't optional, they were essential. You realize you've always thought art was a luxury, a thing to do once the work was done. But here, art is part of the work, not a distraction from life, but a reflection of it. And you wonder how many marks we've left in our world that will outlast us. Not just our photos and videos, but something human, something raw and wordless. You ask yourself, why did they bring you here? Was it a gesture of trust, an initiation, or simply part of the rhythm? Everyone sees this, eventually. No one explains. No one needs to. The torchlight flickers across animals that no longer exist. Their outlines dance across the ceiling. You look at your hands and realize they haven't created anything in days. They've only taken, eaten, struggled, grasped. But maybe that's the real failure. Not that you couldn't survive, but that you never thought to leave a mark behind. The group turns to leave. You follow, the silence heavier now. Not with fear, but with memory. You know now, these people weren't mindless. They were artists, storytellers, rememberers. They understood something that still escapes us. Life is short, and pain is certain, but what you mark on the wall might echo long after you're gone. And maybe in this way they weren't primitive at all. Maybe they were just first. You hear it before you see it. A sound you haven't heard in what feels like forever. Laughter. Real, full-bodied, effortless laughter. It cuts through the forest in short bursts, like wood cracking in a fire. You freeze, unsure of how to interpret it. But the others don't seem alarmed. They're watching something up ahead. Two boys, no older than 10, chasing each other with smudges of charcoal across their cheeks and a clumsy kind of joy in their steps. They're pretending to be animals, maybe hunters, maybe prey. You can't tell which. But they're playing, and no one stops them. One of the women chuckles softly as the smaller boy tumbles into a patch of leaves. His friend circles back, helps him up with mock seriousness, then shoves him again for good measure. You stand there, confused. You've spent the last day associating this life with pain, effort, survival. And now, here are these kids, dirty, thin, completely immersed in nonsense. There's no toy, no structured game, just running, improvising, laughing. You suddenly feel like the outsider again, not because you're weaker, but because you've forgotten how to play without purpose. You realize this isn't wasted energy, it's essential. These children are learning how to move, how to chase, how to fall, how to get back up. And the adults aren't ignoring it. They're letting it happen, because deep down, they know. Without moments like this, the pressure of survival would crush even the strongest minds. Even here, in a life filled with hardship, people need relief. Joy isn't a distraction, it's medicine. And in that moment, you feel the weight of your own forgotten joy. When was the last time you laughed without irony, without a scream, without needing a reason? Later that night, you catch a moment between two of the older men by the fire. One mimics an animal call, badly. The other snorts. There's a joke exchanged, gestures more than words, a playful shove. You realize something you never expected to learn out here. Even in the most brutal conditions, humans are wired for lightness. They find humor in failure, in pain, in each other's flaws. Not cruelty, just recognition, shared struggle turned briefly into silliness. And you, for the first time, smile without guilt. Because what you're witnessing isn't the collapse of civilization, it's its roots. The first inside joke, the first funny face drawn in mud, the first silly dance. These weren't evolutionary accidents. They were necessary for group cohesion, for resilience, for memory. Laughter relieves tension. It binds people who have nothing else in common but a fire and fatigue. You're starting to understand why prehistoric people didn't just endure. They outlasted. Not because they were physically dominant, but because they had the emotional flexibility to find joy even in hunger. And now, as the boys fall asleep curled near each other like pups, the older members nodding off with quiet smirks still on their faces, you feel something you haven't felt since you arrived. Warmth that isn't from the fire. This world is still harsh, still unforgiving, but it isn't joyless. And maybe, just maybe, the thing that would break you here isn't the cold or the silence. It's the realization that your world forgot how to laugh simply. And this one, despite everything, never did. The morning begins quietly. Not unusually so. Every morning here begins like that. But today, as you listen, you notice something that makes your brain itch. The group is speaking. Of course they are, but it's different than what you expected. The language is lean, efficient. No filler, no fluff. Sounds that rise and fall like birdsong. Sharp clicks, soft vowels. Hand signals tucked between sentences, like commas that clarify meaning. You don't understand a word of it, but they do, and that's what matters. Because this isn't small talk. It's communication at its purest. You thought cavemen grunted. That's what movies taught you. Mumbling, pointing, basic sounds to express basic needs. But what you're hearing now is intentional. It's layered. You can't follow the rules, but you can feel the rhythm. There's a kind of poetry in the way they speak. Words are brief, like tools made for specific jobs. No one speaks more than they need to. But when they do speak, it means something. There's weight, direction, consensus. These people don't waste language, and suddenly you realize how much of your own speech, your daily life, is built around distraction, not communication. One of the younger women gestures toward a tree, says 2 clipped syllables, then turns her hands sideways. Within seconds, someone else is moving. They've understood her perfectly. What sounded like nonsense to you was a clear instruction, probably filled with layers of environmental knowledge, plant type, use, season, urgency, all tucked into 5 seconds. You start to wonder what their vocabulary is really like, how many words they have for rain, for animal tracks, for kinds of bark, or shifts in wind. These people talk with precision, because imprecision could mean death. You, on the other hand, are mute here. You know how to talk, formally, emotionally, sarcastically, even persuasively. But none of that works. You can't joke here. You can't explain yourself. You can't even ask a simple question. And it hurts in a way you didn't expect. Not being misunderstood, but being unheard. You realize that in your world, language was how you defined yourself. Your ideas, your values, your identity, all spoken. But here, if you can't contribute with action, then your words don't matter. And that's terrifying, because it means that for the first time in your life, your voice is irrelevant. But there's something deeper still. You see it when the group pauses, and a child asks a question. Just a curious tone, maybe about a plant or a footprint. The answer isn't long. It's a sound, then a gesture, then a pause, and then silence. The lesson is done. The child watches, nods once, and moves on. That's how knowledge spreads here. Not with lectures or repetition, but with moments. You start to understand that language isn't just about vocabulary. It's about shared context, shared rhythm. And without that, you are always on the outside. You don't speak their language, and you likely never will. Not because you're incapable, but because language isn't just something you learn. It's something you live. You haven't lived their world long enough to earn it, and that's humbling. You still wouldn't last 24 hours here. Not because you're too weak or too slow, but because you can't speak the one thing that really binds people together. And until you do, no matter how close you sit, how much you eat, how far you walk, you're just passing through. You feel it before you see it. A stillness that doesn't match the usual rhythm of the group. Not the kind that comes before danger or after exhaustion, but something quieter, heavier. Everyone moves slower. No one meets your eye. You hear one soft sound, like an exhale through the nose, repeated. Grief. Even though you don't know the word they use for it, you recognize it instantly. Something has happened, or more precisely, someone has gone. You find out through observation. One of the older men, the one with the deep scar along his cheekbone, isn't here. He didn't fall behind. He didn't wander off. He died. How? You don't know. Maybe the fever he'd been carrying. Maybe something in the night you didn't notice. What you do notice is the absence. His place by the fire is empty, but not avoided. His tools have been wrapped, not discarded. One of the women holds his flint blade, rubbing the handle with her thumb, not crying, not talking, just holding. You realize this world doesn't have funerals in the way you expect. But that doesn't mean it lacks mourning. There is no loud weeping, no drawn-out ceremony. But there is ritual. The body is wrapped, not left exposed to the elements. The group gathers as it's carried, not far, just past the trees, to a shallow place in the earth already waiting. The soil has been worked with hands, not tools. A boy places something small beside the body, an object of no use, perhaps sentimental, and then silence. Not for a moment, for a long, long time. The kind of silence that forces you to listen to your own heartbeat, the kind that makes space for absence. You realize you've never grieved without words, without telling stories, sharing memories, comforting someone through language. But here, grief is not performed, it is endured. Not alone, but not explained either. Everyone carries their own weight of it, not equally, but collectively. And that somehow makes it feel more human. You expected prehistoric people to be hardened, maybe indifferent, but now you understand, they're just practical. Grief doesn't excuse survival. The fire still needs fuel. The children still need food. But the grief is held, even as life moves on. Later that day, the group walks again, quieter than usual, steps heavier. No one speaks unless they must. You feel your own body joining in the rhythm. You didn't know the man well, but you saw him every day. You followed his movements. You ate when he did. And now he is gone. Just like that. And you're still here. That simple fact echoes in your ribs, in your legs, in your breath. You start to understand that grief here is not just sadness. It's a recalibration, a shift in the group's structure, a reminder that even when someone is lost, the world does not pause. You still wouldn't last 24 hours here, because when you lose someone in your world, you expect everything to stop. You're allowed to shut down, disconnect, retreat. But here, you must keep walking, with that grief tucked into your bones, burning quietly beneath your silence. And that kind of strength, the kind that mourns while moving, may be the most ancient and the most human survival skill of them all. The next morning is colder than the others. The wind cuts sharper, the ground feels harder, and yet everyone rises, no one lingers. The same people who buried their companion now put weight back on their shoulders, check the direction of the sun, and move forward. You watch this, and something inside you breaks a little, not from sadness, but from awe. This isn't just survival anymore. It's resilience, but not the kind you see on posters or in speeches. This is the unglamorous, unspoken kind, the kind that doesn't look strong until you try to match it. You think about what you would do right now back home. Stay in bed, scroll through your phone, delay responsibility, because you're having a rough day. But here, rough days don't get special treatment. No one is ignoring your pain. They're just not privileging it above the needs of the group. You realize you've spent most of your life thinking struggle earned you space. But in this world, struggle earns you the right to keep going. If you're suffering and still moving, you're trusted. If you're waiting for comfort before you act, you're left behind. There's a woman in the group, short, strong-backed, probably in her late 30s. You've watched her carry firewood, cut meat, mend a wounded foot, and now she's calming a toddler who hasn't stopped crying since sunrise. Her expression doesn't change. She doesn't comfort with words. She just shows up over and over. You realize she's the strongest person here, and not because she's loud or commanding, but because she doesn't need to be. She exists like stone, weathered, quiet, unmovable. You don't even know her name, but you already trust her more than anyone you've ever followed in your modern life. That's what this world builds. Trust through action, not declarations. There's no performance here, no pretending to be okay, no posting resilience quotes with coffee. If you're strong, it shows in your steps, your breath, your hands, and if you're not strong today, that's okay too. But only if you keep contributing. There's no shame in struggle, but there is in quitting. Not because they're heartless, but because they can't afford to carry people who won't try. It's not cruel, it's natural. And it's a lesson most of us would never survive long enough to learn. By midday, your legs hurt less than yesterday. Not because the pain is gone, but because you've stopped needing it to stop. You've adjusted. Your hands move with more purpose now. You sense what's needed without asking. You move toward tasks instead of waiting to be assigned. You're still not strong. You're still not useful, but you're beginning to see what it takes to become those things. And it's not willpower, it's consistency. The same act, every day, no matter how much it aches. You still wouldn't last 24 hours here. Not the version of you that arrived anyway, but maybe there's a version of you, buried deep beneath the comfort and noise and hesitation, that could. One that knows the world doesn't owe you softness. One that doesn't break when things are hard. One that doesn't wait to be saved. You've seen that version in these people. And for the first time, you wonder what it would take to bring it out of yourself. Night falls one last time. The sky stretches wide above you. The same stars as yesterday. The same air in your lungs, but you are not the same. Something in you has shifted. It's not confidence. It's not pride. It's not survival. It's a kind of quiet knowing. A memory written into your muscles. The way you move now. The way you sit. The way you breathe. It's slower. More deliberate. You're not performing. You're present. And that presence is not a skill. It's an ancient inheritance you've finally remembered. You look around at the people you've followed, hurt beside, eaten beside, grieved beside. You still don't know their language. You don't know their stories, but you know their rhythm. And that's enough. You've learned to read the way they look at the trees, the way they pass tools, the way they don't need to fill the silence. You've learned that connection doesn't always come from shared words. Sometimes it comes from shared weather, shared hunger, shared dust, and shared firelight. You'll leave soon. You know that. This was never permanent. You can already feel the weight of modern life returning. The timelines, the updates, the constant demand for attention. But now you have this story under your skin. Not as entertainment, not as fantasy, but as something real, something earned. You didn't come here to be strong. You came here to understand what strength really is. And now you know it's not loud. It's not fast. It's not heroic. It's quiet, steady, humble. It moves every day, whether seen or not. You still wouldn't last 24 hours here, not without breaking. But maybe that's the point. Because breaking isn't failure. Breaking is what lets the light in. Breaking is what shows you where you're soft, where you need to grow, where you're still human. The people here break all the time, from hunger, from weather, from loss. But they keep going. They break, then rebuild, again and again, until the world accepts them, not because they conquered it, but because they became part of it. And maybe that's the real lesson. You weren't meant to dominate this world. You were meant to belong to it, to rise with it, hurt with it, sleep with it, mourn with it. You don't have to live like this forever. But if you carry even one part of it forward, the silence, the slowness, the shared breath, you'll live closer to the edge of truth than most ever will. If you're still here, thank you. Really. You walked all this way with me, and I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I read every single comment. If this stayed with you, subscribe for more long, quiet walks like this. Sleep deeply tonight. You're home now.